let's talk about compressors briefly. The wonderful world of compressors, right? So compressors, why do we use compressors? Obviously we want to kind of tame the volume a little bit, right? Whatever instrument really kind of isn't like inside of a pocket, so to speak. But compressors do more than just help you sort of manage volume and dynamic range a little bit, right? Maybe so you can get the mix to be a little bit louder, but also at the same time kind of control that instrument so it doesn't sound like it's all over the place, right? The point isn't necessarily to negate fader moves either on your console or your DAW. It's not. It should maybe minimize it, but it shouldn't negate it altogether, right? It shouldn't do that. I know people who do that. That's not the way to mix. No offense. It's just not. So what can we do with compressors, right? So we can obviously sort of control the volume, the dynamic range a bit, but we can also use compressors, depending on how they work, to do certain things to make the music maybe a little bit more charismatic, right? So to speak. So different hardware compressors all have their own sort of tonal characteristic, right? The plug-in versions of these hardware compressors are going to sort of mimic those characteristics, right? So a compressor a lot of people like for vocals, the 1176, the Bluey. When I first heard it, when I was starting out as an engineer, I did not care for it. I thought it sounded like someone was trying to run signal through an AM transistor radio, like a handheld AM transistor radio, those are way before my time, but they're definitely probably way before most people's times. But I kind of know what they sound like, and I may have seen one and heard one before, right? However, some people like the way it works on vocals. It has a certain color, it has a certain characteristic or quality that imparts on vocals that people like, right? Would I use a tube compressor on vocals? Maybe, maybe not, right? I typically tend to like an 1176 followed by an LA2A on vocals in some cases, right? I might do that a little bit more for more rock, right? But for other genres, maybe I want something a little bit with not so much color, so to speak, or right, or character. I might have something like the Kotelnikov compressor, which the name escapes me. Tokyo Don is the company. The Kotelnikov compressor by Tokyo Don is what I meant to say. I might have something like that, which is, I know, a bit more of a, some people say more of a mastering compressor, but I might have that. But before that, I might have RVox on there, right, by Waves, which actually I think includes components of the 76 and an LA2A, but to me it's still not quite the same. So, you know, so you want to look at what's, you know, the sound that you're going for and what's the piece of gear that you want to use. Another thing, also, you can use it as a color box, if you will, right? Your compressor, right? So different compressors are gonna have different characteristics. Another thing too is the release knob on your compressor. It's actually gonna impact the EQ. So a longer release time might give you a bit more of a darker EQ. Not all of you know that though, right? So at the end of the day, try to avoid presets, really try to use your own ears, right? And not worry about what the rules are. You know, definitely fiddle around with the different dials on your compressor and trying to dial it in. You know, the attack, what does it sound like? How does it impact the immediate transient release? How does it impact, you know, too fast for release time? Maybe the thing sounds a little bit, I don't know, explain it, jumpy, if you will. Slow release time, yeah, it takes a while for this thing to get back to normal. I see that also with on the master bus. Some people say, well, don't you want a really fast release on the master bus? Not always. I don't really want a really fast release sometimes. Like, at least I don't want the fastest release time, not always on the master bus, right? If I'm putting a compressor on the master bus. I mean, I usually do, actually. Granted, I'm using very minimal gain reduction, about not even, I mean, 1 dB or less gain reduction. It's just tickling it, really. It's just tightening up just a little more. Soft knee versus hard knee, right? Experiment with that, see how it sounds. You know, listen to how, you know, listen to what happens. So, no right or wrong answer, just what is a good answer, right? And that part of that comes from how do you want it to sound. So, experiment. Don't be afraid to fiddle with knobs and make mistakes and make it sound great, make it sound terrible. But you don't learn until you try.